Hello and welcome to this episode of Wine Consultant Reacts with myself, Chau Rodriguez, a freelance wine consultant, sommelier and hospitality professional from the United Kingdom. I offer private wine tastings and consultancy services through my practice, Brian Knows Wine, and I will leave a link in the description of this video to my website, along with links to my social media and professional profiles. So if you would like to learn more about myself, my journey into my professional training through the wine industry, then please do visit one of the links in the description of this video. With all of that said, in this episode I'm going to be reviewing some online wine videos. Now, admittedly, I have seen a few of them, not too many, but I have seen a few. And my first impressions are that there are certain ones that deserve applause and others that are truly shocking. However, I'm going to be providing some honest, professional and expert commentary for each of the examples that will be shown in this episode. So without further ado, let's review the first video.
Place the bottom of the bottle inside a sneaker if you don't have a corkscrew.
Yes.
Then hold it tight as you bang it against the wall. With each
I am
strike,
familiar with this
the
method.
side pushes against the cork,
It
making
works.
it slowly move up. And after a
Yes.
few solid hits, it'll pop out enough to pull out by hand.
The corks themselves are not glued in place, which is why this very inelegant method of opening a bottle of wine works. When bottles of wine that are destined to be closed with cork are sent through the winery, they will eventually reach the corking apparatus, where a large drum of corks will often sit above, and those corks are sent through the feeding tube, where great pressure and downward force is required to create the seal inside the bottle. The corks themselves are larger in size compared to the diameter of the necks of the bottles, which is why great pressure is required to create the seal. After that, the bottles are stood upright for at least 4 minutes before being kept on their side. And this 4-minute recovery time will allow the corks inside to expand. But this particular method of opening a bottle of wine should only be considered as a last resort, and in the presence of your inexpensive and everyday drinking wines, please avoid this method when in the presence of your very fine and expensive wines. And please utilise this method with care and with a very thick soled shoe. It does not work for any other type of shoe, I'm afraid.
What is my
Gilby?
least favourite wine? Well, it's in here, and I'm going there to find out. My worst grape variety is Pinot Grigio.
Fair enough, Tom. So this is Tom Gilby, the famous TikTok wine expert and the very gentleman that consumed wine during the London Marathon. However, all of his social media and online presence aside, here he discusses his least favourite grape variety, being Pinot Grigio. Now, Pinot Grigio is the Italian name for this particular white wine grape variety. It is also known as Pinot Gris elsewhere in the world. The difference being that wines labelled Pinot Grigio have a reputation for being mass-produced, cheaply made and very bog standard, compared with the wines that are labelled Pinot Gris that have a reputation for being rich and very, very interesting. Here he refers to those cheap styles and inexpensive styles of Pinot Grigio wine, and those styles are certainly not to my taste, and they are certainly not to Tom's taste either, clearly.
How do you make it really filthy? You give it to these guys. Right, I bought my plastic mug.
Barefoot.
No littering the park.
From California.
There we go. In with the Barefoot from California Pinot Grigio, which has got 93 points and a gold medal from fuck knows where.
And I will pause it here. Now, in Pinot Grigio's defence, there are some wonderful wines that are labelled Pinot Grigio that I have tasted. So not all Pinot Grigio labelled wines are bad. However, a lot of them are. Here he has mentioned the gold medal that was awarded to this particular wine. I am a wine judge, and part of my philosophy is being impartial and giving wines a fair score regardless of whether I like them or not. Now, professional competitions are often conducted blind, so a blind tasting is designed anonymise the samples so the tasters do not know what they are assessing. And that style of tasting breeds a culture of impartiality and critical thinking. One would have to look at the mechanics of this competition, and one would have to assess on what basis the gold medal was awarded to this wine to establish whether or not this particular wine was deserving of a gold medal or not.
Here it is. Let's have a little swirl around. Now, what can we smell from Pinot Grigio filth? Oh, I smell sort of slightly rotten peaches, maybe a little bit of dog shit, and all sorts of lovely aromas that you can get from the park here. Nice. Right, in it goes.
And we'll pause it here. So, of course, this is not the type of language that a professional sommelier would use to organoleptically describe a wine of this style. However, I understand that Tom is entertaining his audience and he does so very well. So I have to give him credit for the entertainment.
I've got a crab from the Maison.
So this is a food and wine pairing video with crab
list, and I'm in Coke.
at Cote Brasserie.
I love their wine list. And I'm with Koki, who's a master
In the
of wine
presence of a
student.
master of wine
And
student.
Koki, don't balls this up. I would like a really yummy Sauvignon Blanc, please, quite quickly.
He wants a Sauvignon
All
Blanc.
right.
Challenge accepted.
So we're in a French restaurant, puts New Zealand out the window.
Oh, okay, more on
I
that
think
later.
I got just this thing.
It's mine. Right. So I've chosen crab, and I want a fresh, zippy Sauvignon Blanc, and I don't even know what Koki's chosen me.
I'm listening
It's
and
definitely
watching
not from New
intently
Zealand.
here.
So, shit, that's good. Right. So it's quite pale in colour, quite aromatic, quite zippy, quite sort of herby. Now, I don't know much about much, but that's not a Sauvignon Blanc. But it is absolutely
Mishandling of the glass there.
delicious.
Okay guys, I picked a difficult to pronounce white wine to save some money here. This is a Muscadet Sèvres et Mansour.
Okay,
That's hard to
and we will pause it here. So I fully understand this video is very friendly, ad hoc, and very off the cuff. So mistakes are made, and flippant comments are also made, and anything goes. On this occasion, there are a few mistakes that have been made here. So first of all, Koki has mentioned the fact that they are both sitting in a French restaurant and that New Zealand wines are essentially off limits. Not all French restaurants are the same. I will say that in defence of French restaurants, there are some wonderful French restaurants that exist that have a wonderful selection of wines from all over the world. I think it is the case at the moment that Cote Brasserie has an exclusively French restaurant across their portfolio, and of course they are at liberty to change that if that is the case. We can't malign French restaurants completely with the blanket of they will only have French wines on their wine list. Secondly, I've noticed that she has mishandled the glass. Mishandling the glass in that way will do two things. We warm the wine unnecessarily and unfavourably, and secondly, we dirty the glass. So please always handle your wine glasses correctly by the stem instead. And again, this is a very friendly and ad hoc video, so mistakes are made, so I offer mitigation in that sense. Now, she has also chosen a Muscadet Sèvres et Mansour. It is a different wine to Sauvignon Blanc. It is Melon Blanc based, not Sauvignon Blanc. And the fact that Tom has noticed that the wine that was selected was not Sauvignon Blanc says a lot about his palate. One of the elements that we learn in sommelier training is service. Unfortunately, in this case, Koki has given Tom a disservice. She's put her food and wine pairing hat on, which is great, and the wine she has selected here pairs really well with the dish that Tom has, but she has missed the mark because he's asked for a Sauvignon Blanc. Why not give him a Sauvignon Blanc? Unless, of course, the Sauvignon Blanc in question is not in stock, and then the sommelier would be recommending a different wine instead. So that is my commentary on this video. I support Koki and her professional development through the wine industry, and I wish her all the best, and all of this criticism is not personal, it is professional, and the purpose of this episode is for me to give some critical commentary.
Today, we're going to play Is Tom Gilby a Dick?
but I'm the only one allowed to play, and I'm going to play it with a 6-year-old bottle of white Burgundy.
Chardonnay. I love
in the garden.
Chardonnay.
Here's my bottle of white Burgundy. Why am I a dick? Because I quite often say white wine, unless it's really rock and roll, should be drunk within 5 years.
Thank you. So this is actually a well-known rule of thumb in the wine industry. I know that Tom here has applied this rule of thumb to white wines. I apply the rule to any wine. Any wines that are above 5 years of age would be considered to be an older wine, and unless a wine is made to be aged further into the future, we should be looking to consume wine within 5 years of the vintage, which means the year of grape harvest. So this rule is absolutely valid. We do learn the rule in wine school, and I have to say that there are many different factors to consider when establishing whether or not a wine is suitable for further aging or not. The alcohol level, the tannin level, the acidity level, the complexity level, the body. If a wine is sealed under screw cap, then we can safely say for the most part, and I will say this again, for the most part, that that particular wine should be consumed quite soon. And in fact, there are screw-capped wines that exist on the market that are designed to be aged. But yes, again, this is a very valid rule. Please only consume your white wines within 5 years of the vintage, unless it is, as he says, rock and roll.
Here we go. Welcome to my new series based on various
This is Kende
tasting
Warden.
beats. This week I'm tasting an oak-influenced Chardonnay
Of the
with one made in
grapevine.
stainless steel to see if I can identify which is which. Chardonnay is a relatively neutral variety, meaning it's not very aromatic or floral in its pure form. Because of this, oak barrels have been used to add flavor, complexity, and texture. However, this has been wildly overdone in the past, giving oak Chardonnay a bad reputation.
Correct. So Chardonnay is one of the 8 principal grape varieties used in winemaking. There are, of course, plenty of other grape varieties that are utilised in winemaking. However, the industry considers there to be 8 of them, and Chardonnay being one of them. The beauty of Chardonnay is that it is versatile. It can be grown in the coolest of climates around the world to the hottest of climates around the world, and the flavours of the wine differ from country to country, and because Chardonnay is so versatile, there are plenty of winemaking influences that can affect the flavour and the texture and the complexity of the wine. But as quite rightly Kende has said, that those winemaking influences have been overused in the past. It's a wonderful grape variety, and she explains this subject so well. So Kende escapes my wrath and receives my critical acclaim.
So how do you make Cremant?
You take your grapes and you make a white wine, normally quite a low alcohol white wine. So you then put that wine in this bottle,
Fattorini
and
now.
you add a bit of sugar and a bit of yeast, and then you put actually a beer cap on the top, and you lie it like
Yes,
that.
correct.
And so it ferments a second time. But then it ferments
Secondary
a second time,
fermentation
the
in the
bottles
bottle,
can't go
correct.
anywhere, so they dissolve into the wine. And it's got lots of pressure, about the same pressure, 7 bars, as a London double-decker bus tyre, with everybody on the bus. So it's quite high pressure.
Yes, thank you. So this is the analogy that we learn in wine school, and it's a wonderful analogy to learn because it just puts into perspective how much pressure there is inside a bottle of sparkling wine. I had the pleasure of visiting Champagne a few years ago, and I visited many of the cellars that belong to many of the champagne producers out there in the region, and I have been told that every now and again in the cellar there would be 1 or 2 fermenting bottles of sparkling wine that explode unexpectedly, and certain wineries out in Champagne take that risk so seriously that they would wrap their bottles in plastic and ensure that their workers approach the fermenting bottles of sparkling wine with with goggles just to mitigate the risk of injury should there be an unexpected explosion in the cellar. But that also helps to put into perspective the amount of pressure there is inside a bottle of sparkling wine. And in wine school and sommelier training, we learn how to safely open a bottle of sparkling wine. It is so important that we seek to do just that. That said, unless we're performing sabrage, which is a completely different and dangerous art form in itself in relation to opening a bottle of sparkling wine, but everything Joe is saying here is absolutely correct.
And down here you'll have lots and lots of yeast, and that thing you feel across your teeth is the yeast cells dying and dissolving into the wine. So you then do a thing called...
I love his explanations.
Remoulage, where you diddle so that all the yeast cells are in the bottom.
I love that.
And then you put it into frozen water.
Okay, let's see what's happening here. Oh no, please sir, put the glass down. Don't do that. Please sir, put the glass down. Sir, please, just don't do that. Please sir, behave yourself. You're a well-dressed gentleman. You should know better. Please sir, don't do that. Please sir, stop. Please do not do that. Behave yourself. Please sir, sir. No paramedic would ever be happy to retrieve the shards of glass from your mouth if this goes wrong. And if this was my restaurant, he would be long gone. This looks fun. The blind tasting challenge at the Vlasidas winery. I don't think I've pronounced that correctly, so do forgive me for the pronunciation. I want to stay with this video for a little longer and discuss things as they arise. We won't be discussing the entire video, but I do want to discuss a few points. Wow. This looks like the ultimate sensory experience about to occur. This looks incredible. Nice. Yeah. The blindfolds and the black tasting glasses. We'll pause it here. A blind tasting is never truly blind because we can see what's in the glass. And this is a true blind tasting. We have black tasting glasses that obscure the view of the wine, and all of the tasters are blindfolded. And this is an exercise that ensures that the tasters rely on their instinct and their palate alone. But this is a true and raw example of a blind tasting. And hats off to the Vlasidas winery for doing this. How to open a bottle of sparkling wine. Okay, oh no, we don't tear the foil off like cavemen. We use a foil cutter like elegant people. No, this is terrible already. No, unscrew the wire cage, go counterclockwise about 6 times. I don't care how many times this wire is wrapped around the neck of the bottle. That does not matter to me, I'm afraid. Thumb down, you're doing terribly. And no, we don't twist the cork, we twist the bottle, not the cork. Oh dear. Oh dear. Let me show you how it's done. This is not a bottle of sparkling wine, but please imagine that it is. So we have the foil over the top and of course the cage underneath. We cut the foil on the bottom section, if this was a bottle of sparkling wine. We remove the foil, place the foil in our pockets. On top would be the cage. We unscrew the cage however many times it takes to do that, and then our thumb would be over the top of the cage and the cork, and it's important to leave the cage on. You can also use a cloth to do this, but I like to use my thumb. Then at a 45-degree angle, we hold the bottle steady and we hold the cork tight. We then twist the bottle, not the cork, until we feel the cork coming out, and we resist the temptation of letting go of our thumbs. And then we should hear a gentle sigh when the bottle opening is complete. This is terrible. She receives nil points. Thank you for watching this episode of Wine Consultant Reacts. If you liked this video, please do give me a like and subscribe. That would be very, very helpful and much appreciated. See you later. Thank you very much indeed, and stay tuned for more content.